This is Rolf Youngclass, and I'm speaking out in the August 25th, 2010 edition of the Haskell County Monitor Chief, Sublette, Kansas. On September 11th, 2010, the American people will be commemorating those who died 9 years ago in a horrendous attack by radical Islamists on suicide missions. 2 fuel-laden planes full of people were put to death when their terrorists crashed one, then the other into each of the Twin Towers at the World Trade Center in New York City. Hundreds inside the buildings were killed on impact. The heat from the resulting fires eventually caused the buildings to collapse, resulting in the destruction of the building complex. Thousands who were inside died as a result of the buildings collapsing. A third plane struck the Pentagon, killing everyone on board as well as 125 military personnel and civilians inside the building. Then everyone on board a fourth plane was killed when their plane crashed into the Pennsylvania countryside. The words, "Let's roll," could be heard as the passengers and crew valiantly fought, then died as they stopped their plane from becoming a missile launched into a third site. While recollection of those events is still so painful to many Americans, it seems that some on the left and the Obamistas seem to have themselves insulated from the truth and the feelings for 9/11. President Obama's statement to Muslims on August 12th would have been a good time to build bridges about the sense of loss and anger that remain about the 9/11 attack. Instead, he chose to pander and say one thing to his audience of Muslims, then attempt to backtrack at least a little the next day, still with no regard for the friends, families, and co-workers of those who died on 9/11. What he should have done in his speech on August 12th was explain why the issue of the mosque is such a sensitive issue to so many Americans, and how American Muslims need to be tolerant of the need for Americans to pay their respects to those who died, and not build a structure to promote Islam in the vicinity. What I believe has happened is what I call the Bush nullification syndrome, where the propaganda from the left has caused the affected people to nullify the significance of 9/11. But whatever President Bush may or may not have done wrong in regard to the war in Iraq does not diminish the significance of 9/11 or the defeat of the Taliban government in Afghanistan. Anything done under the G.W. Bush administration has been rendered wrong and invalid in the minds of the left and those under the sway of their indoctrination. The tragic aspect of this is the dismissal of September 11th, 2001 as possibly the most significant day in American history since the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 6, 1941. What those of us who have not been indoctrinated by these lies have to understand is that there are a large number of people who feel nothing when the President slights the 9/11 events. I'm sure I'm not the only one who felt the same pain the night of President Obama's announcement as when we saw the towers fall that tragic day 9 years ago. Yet in expressing my pain on Facebook, a big mistake in retrospect, it became a time for the Bush detractors to try to argue about so-called concerns for the First Amendment and mock people's dismay about the building of the mosque and so-called community center less than 600 feet from ground zero. I think it is important that Haskell County residents join together on Saturday, September 11th, with others around the country to remember those who died that day in 2001 while they were at work or taking care of business in the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and those who died on the flights, and the firemen, police, others who died trying to rescue those at the World Trade Center. September 11th is primarily a day to commemorate the events of that day in 2001. We can't be misled to think otherwise. Please contact the Monitor Chief about any events already scheduled so we can publicize them. And contact us as well if you desire to help in planning or coordinating or participating in a September 11th commemoration.